This is serious business. I'm Ben Butler, and this is Ask Your National Professional Advisor. Today, we're talking about National Assembly procedure. In a very boiled down nutshell, we're going to go through the positions. The candidates are going to give speeches. You're going to ask them Q&A. We're going to vote and move on. There's going to be some bylaws, so be sure to check out the progressions post to see what those are and how you can prep for those. We're going to open those for discussion, and then we're also going to vote on those. So that's a very quick run of show for National Assembly. So as a delegate, you have the ability to address the floor, whether to ask questions, make comments, make a motion. But in order to do that, you must be recognized before you may speak. So in order to be recognized, raise your hand, you'll be called upon, and then immediately you have to address the head table formally with your name and your university, like so.
Mr. Chair, this is Joseph Brown of the University of Top Hat.
That's how it's done. So whenever you're recognized to communicate, you may ask questions or you may raise a motion. So when a motion arises, we have to deal with that motion in the moment. And in order for it to progress, it must be seconded by someone else in the assembly. Upon being seconded, we must deal with the exact nature of that motion and vote upon it before we can move on to any other motions. For example, I motion that the assembly get served coffee. Anybody second it? I second it. And in a situation like that, we have to talk about it. If you want to say, hey, I motion we also get lunch, that's a separate motion that must be dealt with after we vote on coffee. And so if a motion is not seconded, it will immediately die and will carry on. But again, if you raise a motion, we must deal with that motion, vote on it, and then we may move on. As I mentioned in the beginning, candidates are going to give their speeches, and then after all of them give the speeches, it's going to be open to question and answer period. This is only for delegates to participate in, and so you may approach the microphone in the middle of the room, give your formal introduction of who you are, and then you may ask your questions. Here's what's really important about the Q&A. Keep your questions geared at the capability and experience of the candidates and direct it to all of them. Don't pick one person and say, from your speech, this happened, and so let me address this to you. You must address all of the candidates to answer the question fairly and freely. So think of things that are going to get them to tell you a little bit more about why they're capable and what they're going to do for the society. So let's talk about some ground rules. As a delegate, you may not leave the room. If you do, you won't be capable and eligible to vote on that position. So in order to do so, you must make it through all the speeches, all the Q&A, and then vote. If you're gonna have an accident in your pants, please excuse yourself. Again, you just won't be able to vote on that position. As an onlooker in the assembly audience, you can go freely as you choose, but please be respectful of the speeches and do not cause a distraction as you're coming in and out of the room. Candidates for the National Committee may not campaign in any way. The most they can do is submit their material, which has already been distributed, and give a speech and answer the Q&A. They may not give buttons, they may not do t-shirts, they may not do signs, they may not tweet it. They can't campaign in any way, and if we do find somebody who is campaigning, they will be disqualified. The last of the major rules and procedures that I want to mention before diving into some of the more complicated stuff is posting results on social media. You must not post who wins until the PRSSA national accounts announce that at the very end of the day. So during the event, you may not tweet, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, nothing. You may not share any results until the very end, and only after PRSSA National has shared the results officially. So it's about to get a little bit more complicated. Need a little bit more of this first. Thank you. So complicated, in fact, I need a little bit of help. So, running from the floor. These would be people who haven't submitted their materials in advance and haven't been included with the mailing and the delegate packet. So these are people who we know want to, or maybe we don't know yet. And so in order to run from the floor, you must check your eligibility. You must be a member of good standing in an active PRSSA chapter. You must be able to maintain PRSSA membership through the term duration. You must be a full-time student from election through the fall semester. So let's say that you're somebody who wants to run from the floor, or you know somebody, you must follow that eligibility criteria. You must get in touch with PRSSA headquarters staff on site, and this is a big one. you must procure your own copies of your nomination form, essay, signed letter of recommendation. That's a lot. And you need 150 copies. The entire assembly must receive your materials or you are not eligible to enter the speeches and participate in the Q&A. As the elections proceed, people are going to win and people are going to not win. And so those who don't win can drop down to run for another position. And so this is something that may occur. And in order to do that, a candidate may not self-nominate. Just because you were in the running for another position, you can't just enter. You must be nominated officially from the floor. And also, you must participate in the election process again. I'd recommend changing up your speech a little bit and being ready for that extra Q&A. And last but not least, as a delegate, you have the right to leave a position open. This is something that we don't really talk about. It's kind of taboo because we don't want to hurt people's feelings, but your responsibility as a delegate is to set up the society for its ultimate success for the coming year, but also for the coming generation. And that starts with every single committee, every single year. So if there's somebody that you don't think is, going to have the responsibility experience to drive us forward in a position, you may elect to leave it open by raising a motion and calling for a vote on it. So those are some high-level procedural items to keep in mind. Be sure to attend the mandatory delegate sessions so that we may dive into these things a little bit deeper and answer any of your burning questions. But until then, guys, I look very much forward to seeing you in Portland. Till then.